Welcome to the Catalyst Sales Podcast. Whether you are a sales professional, not in sales, but interested in helping people solve problems, or a founder CEO who's looking to grow your business, you'll find practical tools, stories, and experience you can apply to your role. This is Mike Simmons. I'm the founder of Catalyst Sale. I'm here with Keenan, CEO, a sales guy consulting, keynote speaker, level 2 ski instructor, and the author of Gap Selling. Keenan, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, my pleasure, brother. Glad to be here.
It is great to have you on. I originally reached out to you back in 2017. It was June. We had hit episode 42 of the podcast. It's like, I'd love to have you on, and never was able to get it done. And then now here we are.
Boom. Persistence, baby. Persistence.
And I'm excited to have you on. And actually, to be honest with you, the first couple of times I went through your stuff, I thought, God, who is this? And actually, just so that you know, this is going to be a little bit more explicit than most of the podcasts. We usually keep this thing pretty clean, but Keenan's a guy from Boston. I'm a guy from New York. And although the West Coast has helped smooth out my edges, we might let some language go today. But so I looked at your stuff and I'm like, who is this guy just chirping away about stuff, promoting himself? Does he really have the juice? Does he really have the background? Can he actually execute? And my mind's changed. And I hope it continues to change as we go through the discussion today.
Well, thank you. I guess my first question back to you is, you saw me as promoting myself. That's interesting because when I go through painstaking efforts that with very few occasions do I actually promote myself. I just talk about the problems and challenges, and by default, people get to know who I am. But I will buy you a Keenan shirt, and I'll send you an autographed book. And one other thing I can't figure out is if you can find 5 pieces of content where I actually promote myself, like, hey, check out Keenan, or hey, check out a sales guy, wear this, wear that. That's not a paid ad on Facebook, which our marketing team does once in a while. But coming straight from me, I'll do that for you. I bet you can't do it. As
much as I would like a t-shirt and a signed copy of the book, I don't have time to go through and look at your content to figure out where you did it. I just know that I had a personal bias that was created for whatever reason. And I thought, here's another one just shouting, from the rooftop. And part of it might be my own lack of comfort in doing that kind of stuff. So I don't know what it is, but I'm happy I've got you on here. I'm happy that I read Gap Selling. I think one of the things that you hit on in the book, and it's such an important piece for everybody that's out there, and we'll get into a lot of detail relative to the book, but why do you think that sales reps today, or organizations in general, focus on product over problem?
Well, one, because they've been taught, right? I just don't think people have been taught. And I think what they have been taught is so product-centric because it's been ingrained. And if I had more time and money, I'd hire a research company to really ferret this out. But here is my hypothesis and thesis. Sales, like anything else, has evolved over time, right? And traditionally, if you go back to the beginning, right, selling was basically people on the side of the road, right? Literally, side of the road or in a market. And they're yelling at you to stop and look at their stuff, right? They didn't have time, nor were most of them very learned or educated, right? It was because there weren't complex things to buy back in the day. It was my vegetables over the vegetables of the guy next to me, or it was my blacksmith services over the guy next to me. And so, or it was my little ailment, which, we did in the late 1800s, was all jacked up, trying to get people to buy snake oil. But right, like that's what it was. And so someone's coming by you, or they're at a fair, or they're at a town, and you're barking at them to get your attention. So you have to go as quick as possible, right? So you just say, hey, look, it's got this, it's got that, and you're firing off. And so we built off of that premise. So as things got more complicated, they went back to what we knew. They said, oh, well, stop yelling at them, sell this feature, sell the benefit of this feature. We kept building off the promotion and pushing of the product. It wasn't until, I don't know, I'll give probably Rackham credit for really one of the first people to actually start thinking about, hey, wait, these things are supposed to do something, and our deals are a lot more complex. And he came out with Spin, and I think Spin was the first real, selling methodology that started to get you to start thinking about, well, wait, there's more to just than the product. But I just don't think it hit enough people. And, like anything else, it's hard to change cultures. It's hard to change mindsets. Selling to the problem takes much greater intellectual capacity. It takes greater critical thinking. So I think all of that led us to where we are today. And I think it's getting better, and I think people are understanding and it's resonating. But I still think, generally speaking, the majority of sales is still steeped in that historical context.
Well, and one of the things you talk about is this idea of people trying to demonstrate their level of intellect or how smart they are by the words they say, rather than by the questions they ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, I say that all the time. You really, 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 really want to impress somebody, get better at asking questions, because questions highlight your understanding of the concepts or the context. Statements and big words don't demonstrate your understanding of what you're talking about. It just demonstrates your understanding of a word, right? So, I mean, like, I don't know anything about, I'm not in the healthcare industry, but if all of a sudden I ask somebody something about how a cell metastasizes and how they manage to address it when a metastasized cell, what's the word I'm looking for, mutates and does this, and that. And they're like, how the hell do you know that? Great question. All of a sudden they think I'm a genius, right? I don't need to make a statement and use big words. Questions highlight your understanding of a situation, environment, or context and demonstrate much greater sense of intellect.
Well, and then we make the mistake. We ask the question and then we just keep going instead of just shutting up and listening. Why do we do that?
Well, okay, this is interesting. I think people who ask good questions and those people who ask good questions that get the client to think, they don't keep going.
Good.
I think people who don't ask good questions and ask stupid, high-level, superficial questions are the ones who keep talking.
And why is that?
Because they don't know. Like they're not intellectually connected to the problem sets. So they're only thinking about the product. They're masking product-centric selling to try to pretend they're problem-centric selling, but they're really not.
So you've got a document that's out there, and where it talks about the problems that you solve as an organization. Do you have a sense for the number of problems any organization might be able to solve really, really well?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's 5. I mean, look, I'm sure SAP, right, and their entire ERP system can solve a shitload of problems. So yes. Right? But even then, I would argue that when you sell it for them to buy, rarely does, and most consultants, even if you're a major system integrator, say, don't buy the entire ERP system at one freaking time and try to implement it all at one time. That's too big. Break that shit down. So what they'll do is you'll lead into and say, okay, what are the biggest, most painful problems you're suffering from right now? And let's solve those first. So what I like to do is I say, look, every company who buys something, they're only going to buy it on 2, 3, 4 major problems most of the time. Even if they have 100 problems, it's too complex, too difficult to ferret through, and too difficult to get your mind around to try to say, well, I got to solve all 100 of these or I can't buy. No, it's not going to work like that. These are 2 or 3 or 4 problems that are absolutely killing me that I have to fix today. And so therefore, they're the ones I'm going to focus on. They're the ones I want to talk about. And so salespeople need to understand what are those major problems that their product or service solves, the major ones that have the greatest negative impact on an organization, and get extremely familiar with those.
And how often do you think salespeople are really asking questions that reveal those problems?
Never.
Yeah, so think about that. So think about that. Like, you go through an entire day. How many problems do you think that you're thinking about in a given day, just for you and your business, or in whatever scope or capacity? How many problems are you thinking about in a given day?
Hundreds.
Okay. So, but you've got 100. Yeah. So you've got hundreds that you're thinking about. How many of them are you actually taking action on, or that important that you're actually going to take some kind of action on?
Well, here's the irony with that. All of us, if we really stop and think about our day for a second, it all comes down to how you define a problem, right? But our whole day, technically speaking, is, I would say, unless you're sitting down watching TV and not doing anything, I would suggest about 80% of your day is working on problems. Now, the issue is most of the time you have the skills and capabilities to solve those problems to your satisfaction immediately. Like, it's a corny example, but I was working on my yard yesterday with my kids, right? For some reason, my yard just is not, grass is not how I want it to be green. So I had to solve that problem. So I went to the store and I bought some patch stuff for the patches in the yard. And then I bought some seed fertilizer mix thing. And then I bought a couple rakes because I had to course the grass so the seed could take hold, right? Well, as I was raking, right, sometimes it would get stuck on something. So I had to stop and look and see what that was. That's a problem. It's a small problem. We don't think about it that way, but that's a problem. I had to do something. So I went and fixed it. I had a bunch of weeds. I had to pull the weeds. Those are problems. How do I do that, right? So every day, if you're connected to life, you have a bazillion problems. The problems that elevate to the ones we want other people to help us with, or we spend a lot of money on, are the ones that have the biggest impacts that we have the least capability of solving ourselves. Those are the big ones. Those are the ones that we make buying decisions on, and we look for other people's help.
So how can we help customers reveal those problems?
Anticipate them. So again, attach it to what it is you do, right? So let's continue on my cheesy little metaphor about my yard, right? Those guys who come knocking on my door and try to sell yard services, they should have walked through my yard before they even walked up, and they should have been able to say, listen, I noticed this in your yard. Does that bother you, or is that something you've tried to solve? Have you had trouble getting rid of those patches? Let me explain to you why those patches exist. Or better yet, do you have a dog? Yes, could be urine, right? The dog's urinating. No, I don't have a dog. Are you familiar with grubs? No, I'm not familiar with grubs. Grubs is a small insect that sits underneath the surface that eats the roots of the and you can't fix that with fertilizer. Were you aware of that? No, I wasn't aware of that. Right? So now this guy knows lawns, right? He might ask this, he say, listen, this neighborhood where I at used to be at an airport. We know that many of the soil has a bit more XYZ in it. And so we know that people here struggle with more iron in it. I'm making shit up now, right? But so were you aware of that? No, I wasn't aware of that. So every time I ask a question that person may not be aware of, I'm demonstrating my expertise. Now they've got me. I mean, I've got them because they want to hear more. Well, help me explain this. Help me explain that. And so if you get them enough and they agree that the yard is a problem, they don't like the spots, and they want it to look better, they're going to listen to you, and they're most likely going to buy from you.
So think about that. You're listening out there, you're hearing this, and Keenan just went through more a deeper discussion around yard work and grass than I think I've ever had. Now, granted, I live out in Arizona, so we have artificial turf and we have granite to cover the land. So the grass is always green. But think about it. These questions that are based on a foundation of your knowledge in a specific industry reveal a challenge that the customer is experiencing, whether they knew it or not. Yet, if you go out there like the barker that's out there on Bourbon Street trying to bring you into the bar, all you're doing is just continuing to guess and hope that someone is there to just catch this piece of information. It seems so simple, yet we complicate it for whatever reason. Why do we complicate it?
Because we don't know any better. So think about the guy who comes up to the door. He says, hey, we're with, I don't know, True Green, something like that.
Whatever.
We make grass look greener. We'd love to talk to you about how we could get your grass to look better. We have these special tools that do this, and we'll come and spray once a week, and we'll kill weeds, and we'll do this. You're like, it's only a couple brown spots. I don't care. Right? So he's just throwing stuff at you about what they do, their features and benefits. But because you can't connect them to anything, because you actually don't have the understanding or expertise about the lawn yourself, you can't even make an educated buying decision. You really can't. You're like, it looks green enough. There's 2 brown spots. I hate those brown spots, but I'll just go to Home Depot and fill them myself. But when he asks about grubs and you don't know about grubs, all of a sudden you're like, wait, maybe I can't do that. Maybe we'll come back. Like all of a sudden, the minute he starts to make you feel like you don't know, you got a bigger problem than you realized.
And holy shit, you actually get someone to engage in a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what happens when people engage in a conversation rather than spraying and praying when you're out there trying to just pitch. And all you're doing is contributing to the rest of the noise that's out there. So, Keenan, you had 9 truths. I think that's how you describe in the
9 truth bombs.
9 truth bombs. So
yes.
One of them is nobody gives a shit about your product or organization. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it's no one cares as much about your product or organization as you do. Stop trying to think that your customers are going to think about it in the same way.
They don't. And let me simplify. Look, I haven't seen it, but I don't know how it popped in my mind. But Aladdin just came out, right?
Yep.
Right. And here's the bottom line, right? I don't know. Give me something that people want to fix or would buy. Give me something they would buy.
Something that they would buy. They would buy. All right. Somebody wants to buy a car.
Okay. That's too cliche. Wedding. Let's go with wedding. A wedding planner.
Wedding? Perfect.
I was looking at buying a wedding planner, right?
All right.
They don't care about the wedding planner. They don't care about everything she can do. All they care about is the end results. Am I going to have the wedding that I want? So as you sit here, Mr. and Mrs. Wedding Planner, talking about all the weddings you've ever done and how great you are and all the relationships you have, well, they don't give a shit. Because guess what? If all of a sudden the Aladdin came in, right? What's his name? The genie, whatever his name is in the genie, and said, hey, I don't know anything at all about weddings.
Yeah.
You just tell me what you want and I'll make it happen with a snap of my finger. They're going with the genie. They don't care about you. They're going with the genie because they're convinced the genie's going to get them what they want at the end. It's the output is what we're buying. We don't care about all your products and features and services only to the extent that they allow us to see and have the confidence that we're going to get what we're actually buying, and that is the output.
Because we're not interested in taking on risk, right? Do we want to take on that extra risk?
Yes, no.
Yep.
No, I'm not interested in taking on risk, and I know what I want.
Yep.
I know what I'm buying. I'm not buying that. I'm buying the output.
You buy the output. So, so think about that. You and how I think Seth Godin talks about this in the context of, when someone goes to Home Depot, they don't go there to because they want to buy a 3/4 inch drill bit. They go there because they want to put a hole in their wall. And they don't really want to just put a hole in the wall. They want to put a hole in the wall so that they can hang a shelf. And they don't just want to hang a shelf. They want to hang a shelf so they can put a picture up there so that they can remember about this memory that they had. And I think that's what you're describing here. It's, this is not that thing that they're delivering is not necessarily, it's the problem, or the solution to the problem is not necessarily dependent on the thing that's being delivered. It's the ability to address the problem that exists in the marketplace, or the ability to address the problem that exists in somebody's head. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah, it's totally fair. And if Seth Godin said that, I got to meet Seth. We spoke at a couple of things, but we think a lot alike sometimes. So I used to say, and if Seth didn't say this, then whoever did say it is very similar to me. I used to say this all the time. I said, we don't want to drill. I don't want a hole, right?
Yep.
One person wants to start a construction company, and therefore they need a drill to start the construction company. Another person wants to build their daughter's dollhouse. Another person just wants to be able to take pictures on the wall every once in a while, and if something comes up, they want to fix it. So the reason I use 3 different examples is because there's 3 different drills, right? There's 3 different types of drills now, right? So the guy who wants to start a construction company, an 8-volt electric drill that runs out every 20 minutes that can't go through concrete is not going to solve, do what he wants. He's trying to build a construction company where he is perceived as an expert, right? So that one might work for the person who wants to drill every once in a while at their house, right? The person who wants to do their dollhouse, they may need something that is a much finer, more sophisticated, or whatever, that isn't going to be as rough, that's going to destroy the dollhouse, right? So really the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, I don't want to drill, I don't want a hole. I want a construction company. I want to build dollhouses, or I just want to make sure I can get something done around the house.
Yep.
3 very different outcomes. And though they drive 3 different solutions, right? So I like where Seth is going, but I take it even a step further. It goes even wider than that.
Yeah, so think about this. It's the questions that you ask that reveal your expertise and understanding and awareness about what's happening in the market, yes, and help to create a vision of the future that aligns with the direction that the customer is trying to go.
Yes.
And if, for whatever reason, when you're asking those questions, it doesn't create this, you can't see the alignment with this vision of the future relative to your product helping to solve the problem, why are you wasting your customer's time with questions related to BANT? And I know you've said in the past, BANT sucks, and we're aligned on that. I mean, what right do you have to ask me as a customer if I've got the budget to afford whatever the hell it is that you're selling, or if I've got the authority to make a decision, or if I've got need, or if I've got timing? Like, all of these things that go into this pre-qualification process are really focused on you as an individual or you as an organization, and not on your as your customer. Keenan, how would you build or expand upon that?
So when you say how would I build and expand upon that?
No, like, what else do you have to add to that? Because I know you've said before, BANT sucks, and you've got a couple of different things that are out there that I think sayings that are really awesome and really pointed, like no discovery, no demo, right? BANT sucks. So let's build on the BANT sucks piece. Why do we continue to fall back into BANT if BANT is more focused on us and not focused
on sales? Is all focused on us. Like, think about it. The whole organizational culture of sales, 9 out of 10 times, is stuff. I got to make quota. I got to go on President's Club. The management, what have you done for me lately? When's the last time a manager looked at you and says, hey, are you sure this customer needs this product?
It doesn't happen.
I mean, it rarely happens, because all we care about is us. So BANT's another way for us to say, well, don't you waste any time selling something to someone who can't buy. You got quota to make. Get go, chop, 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 right? Well, they missed the whole point. Look, my issue with BANT is a qualifying tool, because eventually you have to get all the stages of BANT. They have to have the budget. You have to get to the authority, but you don't disqualify or qualify somebody on that. Up front, you try to qualify me on BANT, and I don't care what service you have. You're out. right? I'll figure that out as we go along. I'll have that conversation with you down the road, right? But no, you don't sit there on the first call and start saying, so tell me, do you have a budget? When do you need to get this done? Shut up. I don't care about you. This is about me, right? Secondly, there's a much easier way to qualify somebody up front. And it's simply this. Do they have a problem you can fix? Do they want to solve that problem? Do they want to solve that problem? Are they willing to go with you on a journey to solve that problem? If those things exist, you have a qualified deal.
Right.
We're in. And I can get that stuff in the first call.
Yep.
And the key is, and I get this one, the key is, are they willing to go with me on a journey to fix it? That one's key, because you have to have ownership. I agree with people who say it's you need the customer to come along and the customers to participate. Absolutely agree. You can't sell to someone if they don't want to be sold to, they're not willing to participate in the sales process. Yep. Buyers have an opportunity to let you help them and work together with you. So if you don't have that last piece, you hold. But once they say, all right, let's go on the journey to solve this, you can get the rest of it later. You can get all of that later.
So why do we? There's a lot of talk out there about buyer persona, and I've even gotten into discussions around customer decision making process, and a lot of people are talking about buyer journey. And there's all this stuff that goes in there. Many times these things get created by marketing based on some kind of fictional being, fictional avatar out there. Let's say that's the first couple of steps, because then you understand the context. What can we as sales professionals do to take that a couple of steps further and make it more personal?
I think just ask the buyer, right? I talked in the book about this business I started. I was so excited about. It didn't work out because I guess I didn't do my homework, but I didn't know what I didn't know, I guess. So I don't know if I would have found it beforehand, right? But where HR ended up costing me the company because I sold this. How to explain? Think of private social networks for ski instructors. So if you take a lesson, at the end of the lesson, that instructor could add any video to your own private page at that mountain. They could take notes and tell you what you need to remember that time. So anytime you go skiing again, you can go back to that lesson and read all about it and watch the video and hear what the ski instructor said. It was dope, but ski instructors are paid hourly. So the schools the mountains freaked out because they were like, look, especially big mountains, they have, Vail had 1,500 instructors, other mountains have 300, 400, 500 instructors. Well, if they're all working and they all go 2 or 3 times a week and go home and spend an hour or two on these videos, by law, you have to pay them. But if you can't control that, you could wake up one day with a lawsuit. We owe millions of dollars in damages because you have all these people running around working off the clock. Like no one was willing to take that risk. And so I think understanding, so what I did through that process, I went through as I sold, I started becoming very aware of how my target market bought. Because I think buyers' journeys are less about the individual and more about the organization, right? Yes, if you sell to the one person, there's only one buyer, there is some type of buyer journey, but generally speaking, buyers' journeys are the result of the organizations, the result of the cultures of the organizations, right? The result of the size of the deal. It's external things that drive it. Like, I can't spend $2 million without talking to people. I can't spend $2 million without an ROI. I can't spend $2 million without, my boss's approval and the board's approval. Like, that's a buying process or buying journey that is driven by the corporate culture and driven by signing authority and all that stuff. So I just think people need to be aware of what they're selling, impact that has in the organization, what the cultures of the organizations are, and all of that stuff, and build your own. And if it maps with marketing, great. If it doesn't, ignore marketing. Like, there's no rule that says you have to follow marketing's buyer's journey. Pay attention. Listen to your sales. Listen to them and ask them. Ask them. Tell me what the process is for buying this.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important piece because this is another area where you can provide guidance to your customer.
Yeah.
You can ask the question. So, and this is a common question that I'll ask. So historically, when you've purchased something like this, what has the process looked like inside your organization? And sometimes they'll come back and say, I've never purchased anything like this. Well, then you got to go, oh shit, we might run into some problems. There's going to be some blind spots that we're going to run into where we need to start shining some light in those areas and try to figure out or anticipate where those items go. And that starts to inform that next set of questions. So one of the other things that jumped out at me in the book, and I think you talked about it directly in this phrasing, but the way that it works for me is root cause analysis, being able to get into those 5 whys behind something, not just accepting that initial story. So can you talk about the importance of root cause analysis when going through your process? And here's my bad question because I'm asking 2 at the same time. Let's talk about root cause analysis, but then how do you how do you prepare as a sales rep, or how can sales reps prepare to do that better?
So the root, there's two sides to the root cause, right? And I'll actually answer your question together, right? Yeah. Look, as a salesperson, just like a doctor, you had better understand the problems you solve.
Absolutely.
Yes. I want to see, I said this in almost every podcast, I want to see some company. I have clients, I can't get them to do this. I just think it's so antithesis to the culture and identity of salespeople. It's just so hard to they don't even know how to execute it. But listen, rather than train all your salespeople in your product, spend your onboarding training them in the problems your product solves, right? Spend all the time in the world. What are the problems? How do those problems impact the organization, right? What is the root cause of those problems? Why do those problems exist in the first place? What is going on inside of organizations that create those problems, that highlight those problems, that make those problems worse, that magnify those problems? And you become an expert in that. Then as you go to find the problems, you already know what causes them. And so you just have to ask the customer, say something like, look, are you seeing this slow, I'm making this up, but are you seeing a low conversion rate from lead to qualified opportunity? Because many of the leads are actually practitioners and not actually executives who are buying. Or are you seeing a low close rate because your sales team has a tendency to spend more time talking about the products and features and don't really understand the problems people are trying to solve? Or are you notice what I'm doing? I'm saying problem and saying, is it because of this? Is it because of that? And that is the root cause.
Yep.
Every time you say, is it because this? Is it because that's the root cause? Well, I know the root cause, so you should know the root causes.
Right.
And if you know the root causes, it's just like the problems, you already know. So you just got to get the customer to admit. Look, I just thought of this. After all these years of writing this book and doing all these podcasts, it just hit me. The best salespeople in the world already know 90% of the information that they need to get out of the customer. They just need the customer to validate it and to quantify it.
So how awesome is that? You say that 90% of the salespeople who are out there, good salespeople who are out there, know the information they need to get out. Yet in a lot of the sales training that goes out there, it talks about, here's the information you need to share with your customer. Here's how you need to deliver your demo. Here's how you need to present the information. Here's how you need to tell your story. What if you actually start looking at it and realize that it's your customer's story, not yours?
Yes. It's not that hard. That's why it's called custom-centric. I think I say in the book, customer-centric selling, right? Getting customers, problem-centric selling, right? It's put your customers first. That's why no one cares about you or your product. That's the mentality.
So you get into this and you say, ask why, because why leads, that asking why leads to yes. You want to talk about that a little bit more? And what would you like the audience to take away from, and why it's so important to ask those questions? Ask why.
Why is the personal piece? So let's give Simon Sinek some credit, right? Yep. Why is the personal piece? So remember I told you I know the problems that somebody's having, right? So as back to my yard metaphor, it's corny, but I just did my yard yesterday. I come up and I'm trying to sell you my services. I know what the problems are with a lawn. It could be grubs. It could be bad soil. It could be poor sunlight. It could be lack of fertilizing. It could I know them all. Boom, 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 boom. And other problems. It could be that it's not thick enough. It could be too many, the problems are, it's not thick enough. Too many bare spots. Too many weeds. I know what all the different weeds are. So I know the problems, then I know the impacts, right? Notice I threw those two things. I knew the problems and I knew the root causes, right? Yep. I know those.
Right.
What I can never know is the impact. The impact is the personal piece. I can't know the impact because everybody's impact is different. So once I get the customer or client to admit that, yes, I don't like my lawn, the problem, right? And I know the root cause, then I have to understand the impact. So the impact is, why don't you like your lawn? Why don't you like this? Right? And they're like, look, I have kids and I want them to play on it. It could be my freaking next door neighbor has a better lawn than I do. Right? It could be I'm not meeting the HOA requirements. I'm getting fined all the time because my yard looks like shit. It could be my ego. It could be I have a wedding and I'm coming up soon and my daughter's is going to be in it. It could be I just want my house. I'm selling my home. I'm selling my home.
Yep.
Yeah, right there, right? I'm selling my home and I want it to look better and cleaner. I want to get maximum value for the price of my home. So notice those are 4 different reasons somebody could want their yard to look perfect, right?
Yep.
And so I can't know that coming in. Those are always personal. So those are the impacts. And once you get to the 5 whys, you get the impact because I want it to look good. Why? I want it to look good because I'm selling it. Why are you selling it? Because my wife and I want to move to Arizona to retire. I don't fucking know, right? Why do you want to move to Arizona to retire? My grandchildren live down there. Oh, so you want to be closer to your children. I might even ask why to find out that if I get the most for it, we're downsized. So every extra dollar we get is going to my grandchildren, going to their school education, right? Okay, that is not going to be, very rarely is that going to be anybody else's why. So when it comes to selling, I know what I'm selling to now. I'm not just selling a green lawn, baby. I am not selling a green lawn. I am selling more money to my grandchildren's college education, and I'm selling the ability of these two people to live next to their kids, spend more time with their grandkids, and be closer to their family. That's what I'm selling.
And this is why reusing proposals across your customer base and treating them like Mad Lib exercises where you're copying and pasting and adding little components just doesn't work. And if you're doing it, not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting your customer's time, and you're not applying thought to the way that you sell. So Keenan,
using that example right there, that's great. I love that. Because look, I don't like doing proposals. Hate them, right? And sooner or later, I'm not going to do them because I'm going to have enough people working here that I don't have to do them anymore, right? So, but with that being said, I get the cut and paste piece, but this is great. I have 3 or 4 sections in my proposals that are custom every time, right? And one of them literally says, having spoken to you about your lawn, and I put in their personal problem, personal impact, understanding that your lawn is here and you're concerned about its ability to get top dollar, understanding that you are looking to move down and spend more time with your family and save more money for your grandchildren's college education. I say that. I literally say that in it. This is what I recommend.
Yep.
Right? It just, bam. They're like, yeah, okay. Like, they almost feel bad saying no, because saying no isn't saying no to my services. It's saying no, ooh, I won't be able to go see my grandchildren. Right?
Yeah, well, and you see most of these proposals that are out there, they'll start with us as an organization. They're like, we do this for other organizations. Here's how we're going to solve your problem. And what Keenan's describing is go back at first and demonstrate that you actually listen to your customer, that you understand the problem they're trying to solve, that you understand the impact they're trying to have in the organization, and don't just stuff it with all this stuff that you have been, I joke about the Mad Libs component, but you see it over and over again. And the one that drives me nuts is when the same typos occur over and over and over again in the same one, because you know what ends up happening is success breeds success. So, hey, I've got a proposal. My close rate is a little bit higher than everybody else's. Now everybody wants to use the same thing. And what they forget is it no longer has the context because it's not personal.
Yes, you got it.
So you hit on training here, and you hit on this piece around identifying problems. And one of the struggles that I see inside organizations is the way that the company describes, and we work with B2B companies, but the way that the company describes the problem that exists in the marketplace changes from whether you're talking to somebody on the product side, or you're talking to somebody on the marketing side, or you're talking to somebody on the sales side, or you're talking to somebody on the customer service side. How do you create, when you see that happen, how do you work to create alignment in those organizations?
You got to understand what each person's set of problems are, and why the problem affects them, and who does it affect the most. Yep. And then what I like to do, and this is really hard, and there's probably a good book in here somewhere. It would take a lot of work to tease out all the pieces.
Yep.
A lot of times, the other people on the edges, it starts to get to a point where, let's say, marketing, they know that the problem is really big for Paul down in IT or product, right?
Yep. Right.
And they're part of the process. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't bother marketing that much,
yep.
Right? But if you get really good, if you can show the downstream effects of that problem and how it creates a big problem for marketing
yep.
that they may not have thought about, then you get their attention. So it's like, look, I'm not going to get you to buy into, what are the guy's name? I said, Brian's problem.
Yep.
I want you to be concerned about it, but I wanted you to see how Brian's problem is going to be a problem from you if it's not fixed.
And as we're going through this, what was resonating for me, Keenan, as you talk through it, and I know you said, hey, there's another book that's out there, but what if you apply gap selling inside your own organization?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, depending, so I do when I'm talking with people, they go, I got to go talk to the board or whatever. And they're like, look, what we sell here, whether it's consulting services or training, it's not I mean, it can get expensive, but we're not talking millions of dollars, right? I mean, we're going to get high, we're going to get a big deal for us is going to be a mid six figures deal, right? And that's that's training a lot of people, right? And that's consulting for, for a big chunk of time for a lot of people. Yep. So, but still, it's not cheap, it's not $1,000. So they got to talk to people. So what I do is I say gap sell them. I literally have that conversation with people. I say, go gap sell them, right? And take the problem that we've got. You already know the problem. You kind of know the problem that Tom has, whoever you got to go ask the CEO of the board. And so take what we've talked about and gap sell them. It's like asking them questions and getting them to say, yeah, you're right. If we don't get this done, it's going to be hard to get the next round of funding. Oh, yeah, if we can't do this, you're right. Oh, yeah. And they say, so therefore, if we could, yeah, it's okay. Well, that's what I want to do. Right? And so I teach them how to actually go gap sell for themselves.
Which is awesome because now what you're doing is you're enabling your customer to be successful, your prospect to be successful, however you want to define it. Yeah. And you're becoming an extension of your team, or excuse me, you're becoming an extension of their team, but you're also demonstrating the impact that this has and how it might impact the whole of the organization. I'd like to get back into your story around you built out this technology and you built out the social platform and you're going to do all these really cool things. And granted, you get into detail inside the book. And if you're out there and you haven't read the book or haven't listened to the book, pick up the book. There will be a link in the show notes for you to go out there and pick up the book. And you can either listen to it on Audible, or you can download it on Kindle, or you can purchase the book directly. But let's go through the progression that you went through. And so did you build out the technology first? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you build out this technology because you were going to deliver a kick-ass product out to the market. And there are a lot of companies that go out there and do this stuff. So they build out this kick-ass product, and they do it because they understand that there's a problem that they felt and they feel really confident about the solution. So then you go out to people like you who have the problem, right? Mm-hmm. And what do those people say?
So in my case? Yeah, they loved it. So, I mean, for context for your audience, I'm a part-time ski instructor, right? And I really enjoyed it. And so one of the things I learned is I was making videos for my clients and then shipping the videos in email and saying, here you go. And I also noticed that this is for private, by the way. This is for private lessons.
Sure.
And once the lesson was over, that was it. And I also learned that people couldn't pick their own instructor who didn't know who their instructor was. So they wouldn't know me or see me or know anything about me until I showed up that morning. And they said, you call in and say, I want a ski instructor, and some fancy stuff behind the scenes would put you with me. And then I'd show up and I'd literally stand in this, what we call the bell, and they'd walk up and I'm supervising, oh, you're with Keenan today. And we'd meet right there for the first time. I was like, this is archaic, right? So I wanted to create like a social environment where you could go to Vail's page, you could look at all the ski instructors, you could see all their history, their experience, right, their schedule and all that, and then click on them and schedule an appointment. Or if they weren't available, it'd say not available, and you could find someone else. Make it automated. And then on the back end, I created a way that allowed, once the lesson was over, you would have your own lesson page. And I would go in there as the instructor and say, okay, this is what we worked on today. We worked on your edging and tipping. Remember that you did this well, and you want to work on this. And I might throw up a video that shows, hey, look, notice as you go through here, I could throw up some pictures of the day. And then if we had multiple lessons, I could put different lessons. If you came back next year, you could go back to where you went to, and then we could add a new lesson for the new year. Like it was your own little portfolio or profile, right? Yep. They fucking loved it.
Sure, because there's a story, right? They've got this story that they're engaged in. They're seeing it. Like on both sides. You get the customer who loves it. You get the person who's delivering the service who loves it. So what happened next?
It was awesome. The ski schools loved it. The schools loved it. They started eating it up, including my home mountain, Vail, which at the time had 6 mountains. And because I love skiing too, and I hated corporate America, I'm like, not only am I going to be able to do what I love, I'm going to be able to go around the world, ski all over the place. And I mean, this was like a lifestyle business. I knew it was never going to make me hundreds of millions of dollars. But I did back of the neck in math, and there was nobody out there doing this. So I was like, I could make $2-3 million a year with really low overhead, live a great life, skiing all over the place, be completely plugged in. I was pumped. So this Vail loved it. Winter Park was ready to go. Like they were ready to go. White Mountain or whatever it's called, White Mountain in New York or something. I forget. I think it's White. Doesn't matter. So I had a bunch of people to go. And then as it progressed, I said, look, you might want to talk to IT first, because the way this was going to do is going to be like a redirect.
Yep.
Right? So you would go to vail.com and you click on this, and it would take you to our site. It would be branded in skin like you never left. So unless you're really smart.
It looks like it's yours. Yep.
Yes. Unless you're really a smart techie and can look up an address and know it's redirect, no one's left your site, that you're still there. So the IT had to be convinced, and I said, yeah, we got no problem with this. I mean, as long as you understand and doesn't affect us, they're not touching our machines, like we're good. Yep. So the next one then was legal got involved to help work with the contract and stuff like that. And then HR got involved. Okay. And that's where it died on the vine, because HR was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they went to the heads of the ski schools and said, what happens when your team goes home and spends 2 hours on that? How are you going to pay them? Yep. It was like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, if they work on this based on FSLA, Fair Standards and Labors Act, you have to pay them. Yep. And so all of a sudden people are like, well, what if we tell them not to? But if they do it, you rolled it out. So if they do it, we have to pay them whether we told them to or not. Like, it created so much risk exposure. Yep. I went from 4 or 5 mountains to close to shoof. Can't do it. Business crumbled like that. Every time I invested.
That sounds like me going down a black diamond. I like just.
Yeah. I went up. Yes.
No control.
I went up the lift. And I got control. Up the mountain. I was like, yeah. And I started skiing and just tumbled down.
So the reason I wanted Keenan to share that story, and he shares it in the book, but the reason I wanted to share the story with us here is because I know we've got founders out there who are right now, maybe a lot of the sales that they've generated have been through friends and family or people directly through their network. And, keep in mind, a lot of these people who say yes to this great idea that you have that's going to change the world, that is going to solve all these problems, if they're friends and family, they still have to deal with you. They may not be thinking downstream all these individual leaps, these individual details that could ultimately sink or destroy the business. And that's what Keenan ran into. The gap that he had was huge, which is, hey, we're going to solve a lot of problems, or we understand the problem, we've got a solution, we're going to be able to fix all of that. But the risk that was uncovered downstream created a situation where it made no sense for an organization to move forward, because they'd either have to move to making all their ski instructors salary employed, which changes the business model completely. So now what you've got to do is get everybody else through the supply chain bought into the idea of here's how the business model changes. And I don't know very many, I don't know many ski instructors. I know one ski instructor. I know where I'm going to go when I go up to Vail. But how many ski instructors really want to be committed to somebody as a salary employee and are showing up whenever you tell them to show up? Why are they a ski instructor?
Yeah, no, they show up when because you're still hourly. So it's like working at McDonald's. They tell you to show up, you got to show up. Yeah. But the salary piece is, remember, ski mountains are seasonal. Yep. Right? They're not open year round.
Right. Yep.
Right. So it makes no sense to put them all on salary, because you have to fire them every year. It's firing a salaried employee. We got to keep them on. So it's a cluster. It's much easier to phase people out that are hourly every 6 or 7 months than it is to make them all unsalary them salary, because you got benefits and stuff you got to pay that you don't have to pay as hourly. It's much cleaner.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking through like the B2C version of this. As much of it might be a pain in the ass to manage, there's a B2C piece where the individual ski instructor might see value in doing this. But
that business model does not fly in my world. You know how much money it would take to get all these ski instructors on? And look, a lot of ski instructors are transitional. They do it 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and they're done and on to something else. Right. And there aren't that many of them to make it a business. Like, the win was in consolidating each
group mountain. B2B buy. Yeah.
Yes. Each mountain. Because there was benefit to the whole mountain. Because here's the other piece that people understand. The amount of ski schools are the #1 profit generator at resorts.
No kidding. The ski school.
Oh!
Not the bars and the alcohol and all that.
Look, how do I do this without... Okay, let me put it this way. It is not uncommon for the average... I gotta do this broadly. Gotta be careful here. It's not uncommon for the average private lesson at a mountain to cost anywhere between $400 and $500 a day up to $1,100 a day. Okay. So there are the Aspens and the Vales and the parks in the world. Now, Breckenridge is leveled down, right? Like the real hoity-toity, the real hoity-toity.
Okay, like Park City. Now we're talking like Telluride. I don't know.
Yeah, Telluride. Like Telluride, aspirin, Vail. Those you'll get $900 to $1,200 a day for a lesson.
Wow.
Okay?
Yep.
I promise you right now, there's not a ski instructor on the planet that makes more than, I'm going on a limb, $70 an hour, $60 an hour.
Wow.
Do the math.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of margin there. There's a lot of margin.
Massive. It's massive. So the mountains are going to do everything they can, which justifiably so. Right? I mean, it's all worth it. Yep. But justifiably so, that's where the win was at the time, is the mountains benefited from maximizing the value of the lesson.
Yep.
Right? The more I can value that private lesson, the more I can charge for it, the more people that would take it. So, I mean, that was my logic behind it. Getting the individual B2C is, now I'm down to guys making $20, $30 an hour. A
fool's errand. They don't have the margin to be able to cover the costs and the amount that you have to invest to be able to support it and the scale that you be able to. Yeah. So, so whether you're talking about lawns or you're talking about ski instructors or you're talking about selling multi-million-dollar enterprise solutions into organizations, the foundation, the fundamental components of this are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions.
Yes.
Engage with others. Gather information. Deliver information in context of what you know is important to the customer based on the feedback that you've been able to get. Now, Keenan, as we kind of actually, one story to share with you. So my skiing career ended when I skied a little bit when we'd go up to like Flagstaff when I was in Arizona State, but where I started skiing was at Vernon Valley Great Gorge. So this is New Jersey, right? So Jersey skiing is like ice skating down a hill.
Yes, it is. No question. Yes, it is.
And what was insane is we'd get every once in a while you get a snowstorm and you get like 2 inches of fresh snow, what we would call powder on the slopes. We were skiing in powder.
Yeah.
that was powder to an East Coast kid, and then moved out to the West Coast and skied in actual snow. But it's been so long that I've skied. I have never skied on parabolic skis. Like my skis are were like the old K2 bindings.
The mere fact that you just used the word parabolic, which is about a 15-year-old term that doesn't even come up anymore, tells me all I need to know.
That's awesome. See, there you go.
At least 15 years, maybe 20 years. Parabolic goes back 20 years. Yeah, now skis are about, no lie, a single ski is about that fat. And
what are they doing? Jumping off ski jumps now?
You'd think so, but that's how the ski industry's changed. They're much, much fatter. About the average, anywhere from 90 millimeters to 120 millimeters underfoot. So what's my phone? So it's going to be, it's hard to tell, but it's about this wide apart, right? And
my skis were no wider than about this.
Yeah, that's what I think. So probably two of those are going to be, but two of those side by side now. Mm-hmm. They're more stable. They have something called a rocker in the front, so there's a little bit of a rise, so that rather than going into the snow and going down, it gives you a lift and keeps the tips above the snow. For powder skiing, make it easier. Also, when they're that fat, it allows some more stability in the crud and less chatter, and they're easier to tip. So they're easier to ski is the bottom line.
Looks like I got to pick skiing back up again.
Yeah. You'll enjoy it. So,
Keenan, as we wrap up, anything else you want to share with the audience out there? And just as a reminder, we've got technical founders who are working on building, kind of trying to figure out how to solve the whole sales equation. We've got learning professionals who are in the education technology space. And then we've got these non-sales professionals that are out there who are thinking about dipping their toe into sales, but are just kind of wondering, is that the direction I really want to go in? So anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, look, if you want to be a good salesperson, to simplify it, just look at yourself as someone who's out to solve problems, and that your whole objective is to make their life better by understanding what's making it untenable today. That's it.
That is an awesome way to end. Where can people find out more about you, what you're working on? Where can they get the book? Where would you like to send folks?
I think if you go to salesguide.com, it's a good start. I mean, that has most of our stuff. And then if you don't see what you want there, or you want more information, if you just put Keenan in Google, or you put Jim Keenan in Google, Keenan's a little hard to own. Some famous people there. I still own half the page, I think. You'll find everything in the world about me.
So at what point do you go to just one name? I mean, like you're like Beyonce, Bono. Like at what point, when did you go the Keenan?
I went officially 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, because most of my social was Keenan. but there, it's a popular name. If I couldn't get it, I get frustrated. And then because of that, because my social was Keenan, more and more people were calling me Keenan, but some were still calling me Jim. And I'm like, oh, I see here. So I said, well, I just need to make this the full brand and, make this just the full brand. And so that's what I did 3 years ago.
Maybe that's the mistake I made back in 2017. I probably said, hey, Jim, I'd love to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, no. 2017. Oh, yeah, I just started switching over. Could have been. No. I saw your thing, and I don't know why I missed it or whatever. Look, persistent was key. Like, I get tons of these requests more and more, and so persist. Here, everybody out there who's listening, if you think about a podcast you want to get guests on, let me help you out, okay? Do not show up out of fucking nowhere and say, will you be on my podcast? Because that's a whole take mentality. Like, there are people who I've watched comment on my stuff, share my stuff, ask me questions, post pictures of my book, and all this stuff. And then I know exactly who they are. I've never met them, but I know exactly that. I'm like, hey, Keenan, I'm doing a podcast. I'd be honored if you'd be on. Fuck yeah, I've been watching you share my shit forever. Then I have jackasses who show up. I have no clue who they are. They go, I've been following you for years. Really? Because I've never seen a comment. And they go, I read your book. Really? Because I didn't see you write a review on it. I didn't see you post a picture on it. They say, can you do this for me? Fuck you. Why should I do a damn thing for you when you haven't done a damn thing for me? And I got a list this long of people who are asking. Bottom of the list.
And it works the same way if you're on the other side. So let's say you just publish a book and you're like, hey, I'd love to be on your podcast because your audience could do X, Y, Z. But it's all bullshit. Like, oh yeah, you know what? No shit. You'd love to be on a podcast and promote your book.
Yes.
Tell me, demonstrate that you actually understand who might be listening to the podcast and what kind of value you're going to deliver.
Yes.
And it's the same kind of crap that we get. And I'm sure you get this in the business that you're in. You get these from left field emails in LinkedIn or connection requests, which are like, we'd like to talk to you on how we can help you build your sales business or help you with lead gen or all this other shit. You're like, did you take a look and see what on the website? And because if you did, I need to know what you read that made you think that that's something that is completely different than what I'm doing right now, because all you're doing is just pitching. Yes. You're throwing shit up against the wall to see what sticks. All you are is just another one of those friggin' jackasses that are out there.
Learn to give. Look, I'll let you decide if this makes it to your show. But I have such a giving mindset when it comes to asking that I literally may run for office soon just to pass one law. Ready? You know what I do? I want to create a law that basically says if you are not an organ donor and you end up on the organ donor list, you go to the bottom of everybody who's been an organ donor. So besides the criticality of you needing, because there's only so many top of list, number 2, 3, 4, based on how life-threatening it is. Yeah. The other thing they need to check is, has this person been an organ donor before they got sick? If the answer is no, you're on it. But every organ donor ahead of you goes first. Because if you weren't willing to give a fucking organ your entire life, and now you got the balls to be on this give me an organ list, you are smoking crack. Because people have died because people wouldn't put themselves on that list.
Yep.
That's how it should be done. Give. We are such a selfish society. It drives me insane. All we care about is ourselves, and it's not going to get you where you want to get. And then we're blown away why everybody treats people like shit. We have the problem because you treat people like shit. Give me. I'm not giving nothing.
Yep. Oh, well, hey, I live in a freaking neighborhood where there's a school, elementary school, and you will not believe the number of people who will cut you off trying to get in the parking lot. And you're like, look, are you fucking kidding me? We all live in the same neighborhood. Our kids might even be in the same class.
Yes.
This is how we're going to treat others because, I have got something really important to go to because I'm running late. You
should have got up on time.
It just over and over and over again.
Blows my mind. Mind.
Well, Keenan, this has been awesome. We'll maybe we'll figure out another way to get you back on the podcast. You've got an open invitation to come back out here because I think that everybody who has a chance to listen to this is going to take something away from it, and we'd like to hear that. So, Keenan, thanks for joining the podcast. We'll include all the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale podcast. If you've not done so, please provide a rating. Ratings and reviews help people discover the podcast. If you know someone who'd benefit from hearing the discussion, please share it with them and let us know via LinkedIn or Twitter. I'd like to hear how you're applying the lessons learned and concepts discussed in your role today. Sales is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about yours?